podcasts, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the podcast. There are 4 lights! Its 5-year mission to explore strange and familiar worlds, to seek out new listeners and new civilizations, to boldly go where most nerds have already gone. Join Matt, Shirley, and their guests as they talk about an episode of Star Trek from the original series through Enterprise. They'll cover every episode, eventually.
I don't recognize your face, but I recognize this place.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to There Are 4 Lights. I'm Matt, and I'm here with Shirley.
Hello.
And we've got a couple of guests. We're doing Discovery again with Johnny Brown.
Hey, what's up?
It's all your fault. And his lovely companion, Erica Hillman. Highland, whatever.
You're grading the land.
I was close.
Oh, wow. Hillman and
Is that Scottish Highlands or Irish Highlands?
I had notes last
Scottish.
week.
Scottish.
I'm like super Scottish.
See.
You're
Okay.
Super Scottish.
Okay,
Extra
so
Scottish.
the first thing I would like to discuss this evening, after I explain what we're discussing, is very important. So we are talking about episode 2 and 3, mostly 3, because episode 2 was a weird continuation of 1. And we'll talk about that.
For like a half hour.
But the research that I did today revealed to me that not only is Harry Mudd going to be in this series, he's going to be played by none other than Dwight Schrute from The Office. And I am very excited about that. Obviously, no one else cares. Look at you guys.
Well, I mean, I knew that, but
I didn't realize it was Rainn Wilson. I didn't know. I just, you know what?
I mean, did we not Google the cast to see, who?
I didn't go that deep.
cursory?
I didn't want to know.
Yeah, Matt's just not
okay,
all
fair
about
I want to
that.
be surprised by the acting, like, yeah.
What does non-plus mean? Because I feel like that's that's why.
I believe that's ancient Vulcan for, hey, look, it's Star Trek Discovery.
All right.
right?
No.
So episode
So
2,
sad.
which was called Battle of the Binary Stars, is exactly what it sounds like. There's a battle at the Binary Stars. It's a direct continuation of episode 1. Might as well have been a 2-part episode, which I'm sure we'll discuss here in a moment. To me, and I think I mentioned this to you, Shirley, the first time we watched it, it felt very much like the new Star Trek movies.
Yes.
Like, very much like, here's the same freaking plot. Like, we have to jump onto the ship and do a thing and stop the stuff and then come back. And, like, it just didn't go as well. And I don't know that I don't know. I don't want action and adventure Star Trek anymore.
What do you want?
I want Star Trek drama. That's what
We got a little bit of it.
we got, a very bare minimum of
I
it,
feel
because
like we got aliens drama.
Right? Oh, yeah.
so the Next Generation, the original series, Voyager, even Voyager, Enterprise, Deep Space Nine has action in it, but it's a war movie and it has less action, or it's a war story at points. It has less action in it than this did at all. And I don't know. I don't want action and adventure Star Trek. You guys can chip in at any time and tell me I'm wrong.
Oh my gosh! I just thought of something.
What?
Johnny, do you want to say something?
Oh no, I'm formulating over here because
I feel like we're witnessing Fast and the Furious in space.
Right?
Oh my gosh!
I can see that.
They need more ships, though. And then ships that fly out of other ships that drop to the planet, and then their little ship parachutes pop.
Right.
I don't know. Episode 2 felt very much like it was the finale of a movie.
Yeah.
And it's a prologue to a series, and it had flashbacks in it, and it's just like you could have set this up in a lot of different ways. And it just, I don't think it's well handled. I don't.
So where's your displeasure coming from? Is it because I mean, I'm wondering because I feel like they're trying to go a new direction.
They are, but why are they trying to go that?
To pull people in that hadn't watched before.
So when you love Cheerios, and they're like, let's put out Frosted Cheerios. And you're like, why would you do that? This is Cheerios. Just name it something
and then you
else.
eat Frosted Cheerios, and you're like, oh my God, how come I didn't
Actually,
have Frosted Cheerios
I ate
before?
Frosted Cheerios and realized that it had aspartame, and that was bad. That was
Oh.
bad.
Womp
Is it-
womp.
Diet Frosted Cheerios?
Right?
They wanted it to still be healthy, quote unquote.
Right.
No, like no joke. It
No.
was still supposed to be quote unquote
That's
healthy.
Yeah.
disgusting.
For me, here's the thing. Right. I get the whole argument of I want my Star Trek to be drama
Right.
filled and written, because I do too. But then also, I think there's room for it to have action. But I think part of the again, like we were talking earlier, it's about the fact that the writers maybe going into this where they're writing it so that it's a reasonably balanced, where they're using action to balance against drama against balance, but the execution is poor because
Yeah,
I can see what they're trying to do, but the problem is like the execution is just poor. Like, first of all, again, a prologue. Did we really need a prologue to like facilitate Michael ending on Discovery? It was just kind of like, why did we need that? Why couldn't the first 3 episodes kind of have been like the first episode?
I mean, not to toot Arrow's horn because I don't care for Arrow, but we don't get a prologue there.
No,
We get it throughout the whole series where we slowly,
Right.
and I'm
Yeah.
not saying they need to split this up over the next 7 seasons, but they could have shown us bits and pieces of this.
Yeah.
As like the first episode could have started in episode 3 with her on the shuttle, and we've been like, what is going
And then
on
that's
here?
when the backstory starts.
Right. And
Yeah.
then they're like 8,000 people died. She's like 8,164. And then they're
67.
come on with it, Shirley. She said,
dang.
She
I'm
counting.
numbers.
But
Photo
I mean,
memory.
you could have started there, and we would have been like, what did she do?
yeah, I think,
And then we just see her neck pinch the captain and pick up the thing and go out and be like, we're firing on that ship. And we've been like, what is going on? My mind
Yeah.
is blown already. And instead
again,
we get
it's
this.
the execution. Like I
Yeah.
said, it's the fact that it's the execution, and the thing is that it's a really hard thing sometimes when you're writing something, especially when you're working with a property that's so established like Star Trek. But I think they did a disservice by doing the prologue the way they did, and that you're right. What they should have done is they should have just simply just dropped us into the action, and then the natural drama of the whole situation would have unfolded. And like you said, if you drop us into the action, and then it's like, oh well, she's in a prison suit, she's on a prison shuttle, like why is she there? And then she's neck pinching someone, she's talking about firing, like okay, like there's not enough context, but there's enough context there for you to go, okay, like obviously she did something, what did she do? And now you're invested.
Right.
But it's like they didn't do anything to really kind of hook you in. It's literally like, oh well, we're going to tell you the story from the very beginning, as opposed to like sometimes stories are served better when you're just kind of dropped into something.
Well, I mean, go ahead. You go right ahead.
Especially because I feel like because we saw the prologue, like I've already formed opinions on
yeah.
on what happened, and I feel like if they had not done the prologue and they had done it like just dropping in the action, you would have been like, what? Oh, she's this she's this terrible person who did this terrible thing,
Right.
or at least she did a terrible thing, instead of like having an opinion on what happened and like her character in that situation.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I'm going to keep tapping on other shows to talk about this, but if you look at Firefly, they have an episode called Out of Gas, which you guys may not remember exactly which one that is. So something happens to the ship, and Mal gets left on the ship to fix it by himself. And all we see is him hurt trying to fix the ship, and then interspersed with, here's the story of how this happened. And it was handled so much better. Not that Joss Whedon's good at what he does, but he's not such a visionary architect of wonderfulness that this couldn't have been done by somebody else. And we get flashbacks in episode 2, specifically for Burnham and her relationship with Sarek, I guess, whatever it is. I don't know. Why didn't Spock ever mention a sister? I mean, we've already met his half-brother when they went to go meet God. Like, why? Like, they didn't have to involve Sarek in this, and it just, like, it could have been any other Vulcan. It could have been to Bling Bling. I don't, like, it could have been anybody else, but we get Sarek again, and Sarek is not that important. He's just some ambassador. Like, I don't know. That's just episode 2. As far as the direction, as far as the camera work and the pacing, I think all of it's fine in episode 2. What they're trying to do, they do pretty okay. They're trying to show us, this is a Fast and Furious.
Right. Like, that's what you feel
I think
like.
that's the best way to put it. Yeah.
I mean, this is Fast and Furious, and you know, nobody wants to fight the Klingons, but now that we have to, let's do it, and it's all fine. There's some surprises. They kill the Admiral. That's kind of cool, but like everything here is so non-standard that it doesn't, like, the Europa looks like a Miranda class ship. It is not a Miranda class ship.
Right.
The Shinzu is not any kind of class ship.
No.
The Discovery isn't one of the ships. Like, why do we see? There are things that should make us feel at home to bring us further in, and we're not getting any of that.
Well, I thought about that, and this is supposed to take place
10 years.
10 years before Kirk. And I think again, hypothesis, but I think a few things. One, I think they're trying to show us a Star Trek universe that is engulfed in war in a way that we've never seen it before. So that
But we've seen war. I mean,
right, but we've never seen war. Like, we've seen aspects of war, in my opinion. It's just my opinion. Calm down, fix your face.
I'm looking at 4 seasons. I'm looking at 4 seasons of Deep Space Nine where it's nothing but war.
Right, but it's also like a different. We've seen war, but we've seen it from the aspects of, like, on Deep Space Nine, they're on a space station, and then we're looking at the fact that, like, they're protecting a planet that was once occupied by another group.
Right.
So it's this very Nazi allegory thing that you have.
Sure.
So what we've not seen is, like, a full scale, like, war-esque type invasion. Other people are getting involved. Now there's other races, there's factions. Also, the Klingons weren't, as a house, they weren't united. Now they're united. So there's that aspect that is different. But I think another aspect that they're attempting to do is to show us a federation that is not 100% polished. And I think that in doing that, I think that they've misstepped because they put it too close to a federation that is polished.
Well, but Roddenberry presents us a hope in the original, for all of the flaws of the original series. The fact that it was shot in the 60s when none of your CGI exists.
Right.
A lot of the effects are hokey. They're exploding foam rocks. Like,
And cotton balls.
I always loved it when they would, like, brace for impact and then they'd have to throw themselves. Like, that is, like, epic. I'm like, yes.
Like, you take all the ridiculous stuff out on that one. You look at the Next Generation, and through both of those series, and to me, those are the two core of what makes Star Trek because everything else builds on that.
Yeah, I totally agree.
It's like, why is the dog growling so goddamn loud? You look at those two that set the standard for what everything is, as far as this is a bright and happy future. This is a positive, hopeful future. All of the decks are lit well, and I know that sounds really dumb. We get some badly lit decks in Deep Space Nine because it's a Cardassian ship or station and it's weird, and we get some on Voyager because, you know, they have to conserve power sometimes, and it's been battle damage, whatever. But in Next Generation and TOS, everything is well lit. Nothing is well lit. I've not seen a single room that is well lit in Discovery yet. Like, the only time it's well lit is when they're on the freaking desert planet in the first episode. Like, there's nothing.
When she came to that girl's room, or that girl came into her room, it was lit.
You know, you're right.
Full lit.
When we hit episode 3 and she gets her quarters, it is well lit, but like the bridge never is well lit.
No.
The office isn't well lit with the creepy cooing Tribble in the corner.
So, and this is the technical me, like, coming into play. What kind of technology are they dealing with now? It's not plasma, is it?
What do you mean as far as
their viewing and stuff. I'm thinking like, is
Oh.
it because of the type of technology that they're using and viewing that everything is dim?
I get where you're coming from. Maybe it is because of the holographic projections. But then that goes back to, why do we have more advanced technology here than we had in the original series? They could have done something
Right.
cool. Not to say anything bad about the view screens because they look really pretty, but the Shinzu is really old. That's said very clearly in episode 2.
Yeah, it's supposed to be old, and then I was like, but your
that view
technology,
screen is way beyond.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's even way beyond the first
I-
new line of Star Trek.
Yeah, because
movie.
here's my thing: like when they were like, "Oh, we're doing a Star Trek. It's going to be set 10 years before Kirk." I got really geeked because I was like, "Yes, like we will get some of the old, like, toggle switch. We push a button. It's kind of like, the reason why I am low key in love with Mini Coupes, because they have a lot of that aviation kind of feel
Right.
to
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
So you're toggling and you're pushing buttons, and then you have mixtures of like display panels. And so I thought, oh, they're going to do this really cool thing where, okay, like I'm expecting them to give us some of these like really pretty panels, but then like
Right.
you got this beautiful display, but then it's still, you still have to push something or toggle something in order to get this pretty effect. And it was
Right.
like, oh, okay, like it's this hodgepodge of like slowly seeing the blueprint for like the technology in like next gen and then
Yeah.
beyond.
Yeah.
But you don't get that. And while in the movies, because low-key I did have a problem with a little bit of the technology in the movies, because it was like, oh, it's really bright, it's really pretty, it's all these things, but like it's basically
Well-
like, because you can CGI it instead of like making this very cohesive mixture of like a throwback to what you would have used in the 60s
Right.
and then what you would use in the 90s and beyond.
Right.
And so for me, like that's one of the things with this show is like, well, you say, oh, well, the Shinzu, all right, but then it's supposed to be old, but then nothing about it really says dated except for like the
transporters.
transporters, yeah. And even
which,
then, yeah.
which they then use on Discovery,
Yeah.
like, right before the third episode. It's
yeah,
like-
and I was like, what is this?
well, and they have a breath laser to get.
Child.
Like,
So, I have a question about the series and where things lie. So Discovery is 10 years before.
So this is set in
Original?
2256.
Where is Enterprise?
Okay, so this is set in 2256. I'm going to go forward. Just bear with me for a second. 2256, 2266, 2371 is Next Generation, and then DS9 and Voyager are rapid succession. So
Right.
Voyager ends essentially 7 years after Enterprise ends, so it's 14 years total. That's what we're getting as a span between not Enterprise, Next Generation and Voyager. There's a 14-year span there,
Okay.
where we get 3 shows.
Right.
Enterprise takes place 100 years in the past. It's actually 2154 ish.
So
And
it's way before.
It's 100 years, and it's also 100 years after the Vulcans landed and talked to Cochrane.
Cochrane.
And
Yep.
it's 100 years after they've had warp theory, but can't get past warp 2 because the Vulcans won't let them. Like,
Right.
there's a lot going on. So there's a progression between.
So we're actually
now.
seeing, because I hope I'm not misremembering, but we're actually seeing a similar uniform from Enterprise as we are on Discovery.
There are some motifs that are very similar to the jumpsuit because
Because that's where I was thinking, like, maybe that's where all of this is coming from. They're like, oh, this is the next step. Enterprise was 100 years before, and now we're doing like 5 years before.
right.
Or 10
And, well,
years
and
before.
Enterprise was very astronaut jumpsuits. I mean, that's what they were, which I think is fine. I don't have a problem. Honestly, of all the things about Discovery I don't like, I don't have a problem with the outfits. Like,
Yeah.
I wish I could tell who was who, and now we got a hint that, well, it's silver, so it must be science, but I don't know what gold is, and I only see 2 colors.
Yeah.
Like, there isn't anything else.
Gold is command, I think.
Right. I'm with you. And also
Right.
tactical /
Black
security.
is security.
Is it? Because it said black badge, but they didn't talk beyond that about what that black badge
Right.
meant. It said, do you know what you have to do to earn a black badge? And that was it.
Oh,
Yeah, which, what?
right.
Let's wrap up episode 2 real quick.
Oh,
like, because I want to touch episode 3. I have a lot of notes. Episode 2 is a little bit shorter than it should have been. It was like 39 minutes.
Yeah.
Felt like 4 hours with all the commercials for Hulu in there. What was there anything in episode 2 that really stuck out to you guys that was just not right? I take any of you. Oh,
Go on, Miss Highland.
Erica,
Miss Highland has notes.
I have notes.
go right ahead.
She
Book
was
I
writing
was-
so fast.
I was in a state last night to begin with. So, okay. Oh, these are a mess, too. Okay, I have something petty, though. The Admiral's name was Brett, and that's terrible. Terrible
Some dude's
name.
named Brett. Like, it's going to happen. At least he's not Captain Lorca, like a whale. Sorry.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Let's see.
Which I'm told is Italian and is a hint at Italian artist.
Ooh, there's several notes about it being dumb and shadowy in here.
Yes, because it's dark as crap.
Why do they keep sending commanding officers on dangerous missions? They just keep doing it.
Well, at least that is actually canonized. Like,
Yeah.
Kirk went on
True.
every freaking... Like,
That's true.
oh,
Yeah.
Kirk, what are you going to do today? I'm going to go fight some Gorn by myself.
You're not supposed to, but you'll do it anyway.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, like
I mean, that was a big thing for Riker, was he was like, nope, not going on this one, but I'm good. Nope, that's my job. I get to tell you no on this one thing.
yeah.
Like, so I mean, at least that is canonized. Like, that's one of my.
true.
But at the same time,
I
like,
was
why
still
would you
just
let
kind
your
of like stop, please?
Right.
Also, so I had like a little bit of a like, because you mentioned that it felt very much like the new movies, and I was like, this looks and feels like the new movies. Like, what if it's not in like the prime timeline? What if it's in the alternate timeline?
the
then like
Kelvin timeline?
yeah, what? But then a quick Google
God bless
shut
Google.
that theory
Yeah.
down.
I mean, we were ready.
immediately.
Like we were just like,
I was
yes.
like, I was like, yes,
Well-
this is making sense. I'm making allowances, and then all of the no.
Well, you guys
Never
understand the
mind.
reasoning behind that, right? It's licensing, because CBS doesn't own the rights to the movies.
That's true.
Or not Universe, Paramount owns the
Paramount
rights to
does,
the
yeah.
movies. So they're actually two separate universes so that Paramount can do their own thing and it doesn't affect the TV shows.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
so dumb.
Yeah, which is dumb.
Which is why we
There's a-
can't see
Paperwork.
Klingons at King's Island no more.
Yeah, which I have a word. It's called continuity. Like these are the issues that then you get. See, this is how you get shit like this, because this is how you get this show right here because
Right.
of continuity issues. And it's like, listen.
That's also why we have like 5 Spider-Mans.
Spider-Man's.
Right?
Spider-Men.
John Spider-Man. Yeah.
I was like, yeah, but I mean, I agree. Like the second half of the prologue was short, and it was messy, and they just tried to hurry up and wrap some stuff up, and then I just like, y'all doing all right, whatever. It was just like whatever.
It's like the
I
shortest
can't.
space battle ever, either. Like,
Yeah.
they're like, we blew up some ships. I guess we won. Like,
Yeah.
but seriously? And who jumps in without your flagship? Well, the flagship's like 800 light years behind. Like, why did you? No, guys, you jump with the flagship, because if you all get there and the flagship doesn't give orders, you can't do nothing. Like, anyway, any dang way. Any other thoughts on episode 2?
No, everybody said them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I would like to step into episode 3 first by saying CBS clearly still does not understand what streaming is, how to use it, and what to do with it. We don't need a previously on. We never need a previously on, unless it's the start of a new season, and then I will accept it. But we don't need it, and we shouldn't have it. Make it a separate file. You can throw it up under a separate thing. We don't have to have it at the beginning of the show. This was 49 minutes, and like 3 minutes of that was previously on. They're cheating me out of 3 minutes of a show.
You feel better?
Yes. There's a lot of hate in the Star Trek universe suddenly, and I don't like it. I'm like, this is not a joke.
Yeah, it's half of it is like name calling, racism, and back in high school. Like, excuse me, what in the heck just happened to Starfleet Academy?
I get that the criminal doesn't like Andorians because she's not Starfleet, so I can accept that. Although the Andorians have been around for like 100 years by now. Let's get the shit over this. Like, come on.
They're cute. In a way.
Their little antennae.
I know they're cute.
Now, beyond that, like they come onto the ship, and the Commander Landry, who we meet, is the tactical officer. Is that what she or head of
Yeah.
security?
She's
Head of
head
security.
Head of
Yeah.
security.
She's head of security.
She's kind of a jackass. Like immediately, like
I
don't.
felt like I was watching something very militaristic.
Yeah, and
And like it was very army. I felt like it was drill
Yeah.
sergeant-ish.
Well, again, like we have to. Well, we don't have to, but I tend to look at it in the frame of reference of like when all these shows are being made and like what is going on and like what was the intention. And when Roddenberry made the original Star Trek, it was about the fact of like, oh, like the civil rights is going on, like people are trying to work together for like unity, and like this is the utopia that like we would be able to move beyond. And so when they address things like racism and classism and things of that nature, it was very subtle, because like you were supposed to be beyond that. And in Star Trek, in my opinion, Next Generation, they very, very rarely did they ever touch on it, because it was more about the human experience and like the vastness of that. It's only when you get to Deep Space Nine do they really very in your face in a way address it with the whole
Right.
with Cardassians and like the whole parallel to Nazism. Now you've got right.
No. I watched a video this week where they were explaining Next Generation. It's the 30th anniversary of Next Generation, and they were like, blah blah blah, the Kardashians, and they show the Kardashians,
Oh my god.
and I'm like,
Ooh.
and they're like, oh wait, no, the Kardashians, and
Sins.
they repeat the exact same thing, soulless, cold-blooded, and they're like, I don't know, whichever one you like.
Yeah, but you have the Cardassians, and you have the Bajoran and the former occupation and things like that, and so that allegory to it. And I think now with this one, they're showing a more I don't want to say realistic to a degree, but in some respects, I guess that would be the best terminology of what the universe would look like starting to come out of like post-gender, post-class, and post-racism. And I only say that because when I go back to something, the encounter at Farpoint,
Sure.
and Picard is being addressed by Q at the court, and Q talks about there in the first thing that Data brings up is that it's a 21st century court, and that in 21st century that like things were just kind of chaotic and haywire, and that you had the collapse of like economic systems and class systems, this, that, and other,
Right.
and it was almost like this free-for-all basically of like what would happen if we didn't have social checks and balances. And I think what they're trying to do in their own jacked up way is to
They're coming out of
show
that.
to show that they're still coming out of that, because you it's kind of like if you flip it into modern perspectives now, we're only 50 years removed from things like civil rights and Jim Crow. So like when we sometimes have
Right.
some of the social issues that we have when it comes to race and class and gender, and we're like, but we're removed, but we're not that far removed.
But
Right.
but Enterprise comes before this, where none of that matters. That has all been gotten past. Like I get what you're saying. I
Right.
don't disagree with the concept.
Right.
If the canon wasn't already there, I'd be like, oh, so they're a bunch of jackasses because they're still learning to not be jackasses.
Right.
But they already learned. This is some devolvement. Enterprise was the only ship out there, and then Columbia came across. They're both very much clean cut. Nothing, everything's above board, and now we're back to jackassery. Like, I don't understand.
Right.
I get what you're saying.
yeah,
I'm not
like-
discounting.
No, like, but on the same token, like, again, also too, as we brought up earlier with films, the same thing in the land of television. We don't know exactly why they aren't why there's certain continuity things as far as the television landscape that they're choosing to omit and overlook versus
Right.
things they're trying to hold
Right.
on to. And unfortunately, until we get further into these episodes, God, we got so many more episodes.
Thanks, Johnny.
Yeah, I know. You're welcome. Anytime. Just wait till Stargate comes back. Yeah. No, I'm just playing. No. Right. I feel you. No, never that. But no, like, to me, that's the only thing that kind of makes any reasonable sense about
Right.
why they're doing that. And also too, we've never seen, again, another thing we've never seen is that we've never seen a completely militarized Star Trek. So
Yes, we have.
In that
Twice.
aspect, but not in the same context. Like we're seeing portions of a militarized Star Trek. We've not seen one where where you have war in this context of this over here. We've seen it in a militarized occupied situation. We've seen it in fighting things like the Borg and other types of war expansions. But we have to, we don't have to, but I think people have to make that individual choice to allow the expansion to see what war looks like from another perspective within the same universe. Because it's not monolithic.
I guess, except that the entire second or third season of Enterprise was nothing but them tracking down the Xindi to figure out what was going on, and it was a war story, including going so far as to bringing on Marines onto the ship and became a military ship. Also, there's a point in Deep Space Nine where they lose the station, and they are just on the Defiant, and it is very much a war story every step of the way.
Oh, good old Defiant.
The problem is those, as bad as this indie stuff was, it was handled somewhat well. It just went way too freaking long. It took forever. The Defiant, or the Deep Space Nine, by far is the best of, as far as I'm concerned, Star Trek, because it's doing what this is trying to do. It took everything that the original series and Next Generation put out and was like, you know what? The world's not perfect. There are people that are not perfect, and we're going to show that, but then still give a hope, because this is Star Trek and this is the Federation, and we are hopeful. And I think that's what they're trying to do here, but they're not holding on to that hope. They just tossed it to the side, and they're like, we're all war and war and stuff.
I agree with that they have tossed aside the hope. But then, I still stand with the point that it's, war's not monolithic, and sometimes there is not, when you're on the battlefield,
right.
How much hope can you really hold on to? Sometimes there's hopeless situations because this is war,
right?
And I think and that's the thing. And so when I'm hey, this is war, we've got to understand that war is not monolithic, and while those other points, they're also very further into the future.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that they have completely escaped. And you're right. I forget Enterprise has, because
they did a thing.
But on the same token too, also and I agree, the whole Xindi plot line was just way too much. I was like, I could wrap
it was great that they put it together.
Absolutely.
And that they wanted to present it a certain way. And they were like, well, the Xindi, while being not a full one single race, are of one mind sometimes. And it was very interesting.
Yeah.
But then it went 24 episodes when it could have gone 5 or 10 or 12.
Yeah.
And it would have been a much more concise and much better story. Anyway, let's step onto a couple of new things.
Can we get to the roommate? Can we get to the roommate?
Not yet, because she is down a little bit. So let's talk about the ship design. So I love I love the classic bird of prey from the Klingons. But there's always a problem. Shoot it in the neck, head pops off, the ship's out.
You're done. Yeah, it is a wrap.
Okay, so the Discovery is a very pretty ship. I think, are we all on the same page there?
Yeah.
I
Yes.
agree.
She's gorgeous.
Okay. Did y'all notice that the bridge is a ball in the middle of a circle, and it's only connected by 4 little pieces?
Yes.
You shoot those 4 things out, your whole ship's gone.
The bridge is gone.
Yeah.
Why?
Are they giving us saucer separation teas? The ball can pop out and just do its own thing? Is this where we're going? But you know what? Honestly, when I first saw it, when I first saw the ship design of Discovery, you know what I thought of when they showed the bridge and I could see it? I thought of the game Trouble, that has a little pop bubble. And I was like, why did someone was playing Trouble and was like, oh, I got a design for the bridge, you guys, check it out. It's going to work.
The ship is pretty, and I like what they did with it. And they showed us the outside in a way that we don't see a lot of Star Trek ships, where they're like, this is where the shuttle bay is, period.
Yeah.
And now we're like, oh, that's where the shuttle... they keep doing this thing where, and I like this, where they're like, we're in this lab, pull away outside the ship, and now you can see right in that window. And that is really cool. I like that a lot. But I don't like that. I don't think the ship is designed in a pragmatic or logical way.
Yeah.
And I have to believe that somewhere on the ship planning committee is 3 Vulcans that were like, guys, this is really a bad idea. And what, we just ignored them? I don't get that. But that's okay.
I just wish in Star Trek that they would explain. This is always my contention with anything that is sci-fi related, which is why I enjoy the extra source materials, books and stuff. Is I'm a ship junkie, like a car fanatic. So like I want to know like the classification and like how it came about.
Right.
And like I always wish that they would always expound upon like the different classifications of like shuttles and like the smaller crafts, like the runabouts,
It's
and like
out
this
there.
kind of like I really wish that like in the show itself that they would explain that more sometimes, because they like, oh, it's a science vessel, and then like you turn around and you open a book, and I'll never forget, it was one of the Star Trek source books I was looking through, and like they were like, oh yeah, you know, like so and such is a science vessel, and it's a constellation class. And I was like, there's a constellation class? Like, oh my God, like what does this constellation class do? Oh, and like it's made and I was like, oh, like, but to me, like it I think it gives more of a feel. It gives a sense of cohesion that like even if you don't even if you look at the ship and it doesn't make sense how it's put together, that if they give you a classification, even if you don't know what it is right away, at least you feel like, oh well, there's some sort of rhyme or reason, there's a classification to it. But just like, oh, discovery, just random, here we go.
Yeah, there's obviously at least 2 of those ships out, and it's a brand new type of ship. There were at least 2. The Glen is gone because it was another Discovery styled ship.
Yeah.
We get hit with a bunch of information right as we come onto the ship. So the episode 3 starts with Burnham and 3 other prisoners on a transport. Something happens. The pilot goes outside. I swear to you, that pilot is way shorter than she needed to be. Like, I don't know what was going on there.
Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?
They get pulled onto the Discovery. As soon as they get on Discovery, one, we don't ever hear about the pilot again, which is, I don't understand that.
Tragic.
Like Shirley mentioned, like that pilot's dead. I don't think the pilot's dead, but could we not address that? Could we not take 2 seconds of dialogue to address the pilot? Captain, we pulled the pilot in. Like what? Anyway, we talk about silver shirts, so we know it's a science vessel. That's cool. I like that we're touching on that.
Yeah.
I like that everybody is a scientist that has a specialist. I didn't become an fungi guy.
Yeah.
To just do a thing. Like they're proud of their jobs and what they do. Like Data is a scientist. What is Data's specialty? Nobody knows.
Cybernetics.
No.
Robotics.
Well, I mean, he becomes he becomes a cyberneticist
Later, yeah.
but he isn't that's not his thing. Like Geordi is a warp theorist, but what is that like? What is he really like? He is an engineer. He should have a specialty. We don't get that until
the only
now.
person that had one was, are you ready? Was Keiko. Like Keiko was. It was like, oh, like you know,
Botanist.
yeah, I'm a botanist, and like it was like, oh, like really, like.
Yeah.
Girl, you're the only one that has like a declarative, like, I'm a scientist. I specialize in botany. And it was
Right.
like, everyone else is like, I'm a science officer. I'm a science officer.
Right.
And everyone knew everything about everything.
We get
Right.
a couple others. The lady that Picard falls in love with, the lieutenant commander.
Yes.
She was a geologist or something to do with the Earth,
Yeah.
and then she died. I
Yeah.
guess if you get a specialty in Next Generation, they just murdered you.
Yeah, pretty much.
But we don't see that we don't see that with other stuff. Like it's so like I can do everything, but like I like that Burnham and Saru both are specific scientists. They know their thing. They know a lot of other stuff, but they know their thing. So essentially, the first officer and the second officer on the Shenzhou are doctor and doctor. So we got captain, doctor, and doctor. Like that makes me feel good about science. As dumb as that sounds, like that's one of the things that they've done actually decently well. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just the only one really excited about this.
Like, I mean, I totally get it, because like in Next Gen, you know, other people had specialties, but it was like very succinct. Like, oh, like, you know, chief of security, he's a tactical officer. All right, that makes sense. You know, oh well, he's an ops officer. All right, so he's a pilot. Great, but like you said, when it came down to sciences, it was just like a catch-all. Like they could do everything.
So we talk about silver shirts. We talk about the black badge that Shirley mentioned earlier, which we don't know what that means. There is a tribble in the captain's office. This is only going to go bad, and I think it's great. Like, that kind of callback to canon, I'm fine with. Like, oh, there's a tribble. And then Shirley...
Well, I mean, Harry Mudd's coming, so...
Right. And then Shirley's like, why is it so big?
It's huge.
Well, it was born pregnant. It's pregnant.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Huge.
Looks like a freaking basketball.
What we don't get in this is how long it's been from the second episode until the third episode, because time has passed.
No,
No,
it
you
said
did.
it.
It said it
8
in
months.
the in
8
the
or
shuttle
6
like
months.
6 or 8 months later.
Was it
Yeah.
on the screen and I just
It was
missed
on the
it?
screen, yeah.
it was
Fair
on the
enough.
screen.
Yeah.
That's fine. I missed that.
You got it, but it's okay. But like, yeah,
Because I was like, I remember thinking 8 months. That's a long time for you to get your crap together and like start going to prison.
right.
Like, was she waiting the whole time?
Well, and then she
But
does
then
mention-
she
yeah.
does explain that she got transferred.
So clearly, I mean, it's pretty obvious that the shuttle, the prison transport was brought to this ship. Burnham was selected purposefully. Now, she's a scientist, so like that's a good reason. But also, she was the first officer in a very dangerous situation, whatever her choices were. That's another good reason. So, and clearly, this captain is a nut job. Like I have notes here. Whew.
Yeah.
So I get why she's chosen. That's fine. I have no problem with that. It seems a little dark, behind the back, like backroom deal kind of thing, but fine. Like that's the dark, weird universe we're playing in. So we'll just play in that. But then she gets put into a crew cabin. I'm coming to it.
Mm-hmm.
With a roommate, which I like the crew cabin's design because it's reminiscent of Enterprise, where it was like bunk beds, because they ain't got no room for people to live. You got bunk beds. Unless you're like a high-ranking officer, you ain't got nothing.
Right.
And even like Jonathan, like the captain of Enterprise, his room was like the room we are recording in might be a little bit bigger. Like no joke. Like that was some tiny stuff on Enterprise. And then her roommate mentions almost immediately, like first words out of her mouth, "I'm special needs." And Johnny had some feelings on that matter. It was like all of my angst and anger and frustration last week compiled into this one moment for you. Turns out she's just got some allergies.
She got a little more than
I'm
allergies.
so mad. This is a family show. Listen. I'm all for inclusion. Lord knows I am. I am down for inclusion. But it felt just a little cheap to me. It felt like it made no sense, and it was just like, oh, like here's this person that we're going to put out there and make it seem like they're on they have some sort of social disorder of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's autism of some
Yeah.
something or
Mm-hmm.
other, somewhere on the spectrum. But then we're gonna say, oh well, it's it's just allergies and just this, that. What? Like,
I would like to make 2 points. First and foremost, Next Generation starts off with someone with a disability. Geordi ain't got no eyes.
Ugh.
So this isn't what I'm saying is
Right.
this isn't the first time they've done it. I feel like they're attempting very poorly to be socially aware of such things.
right, and that was my whole contention. It wasn't the fact that they were doing it that I had the issue with. The issue is because you're right. Yes, they had little Geordi, but also too they threw Geordi a bone and gave him a banana clip. Okay, and he was able to see some stuff just fine.
Yeah, actually, you can see better.
Yeah, exactly.
We would say yes.
So my whole
And the thing with Geordi is they made him special and then relied on that specialty because he could see things, and like they're on away missions and Riker's like, Geordi, what do you see? Because we don't see it. What do you see?
Yeah.
And then they were to rely on his ability to go beyond what they can do.
And for me, it would have been different if they introduced the character and they introduced her and she said, I'm special needs. This, that, another, went through the whole bit that she did. And then when they were on the away mission later on the Glen, had she been able to like rattle off a calculation real fast, or the computer goes down and someone throws her numbers and she's able to calculate them really rapidly. So then it's like, okay,
but
so
instead,
like, all right, so so now they're taking something that we're very socially conscious of in our present time, which is Asperger's, things of that nature. But then there's aspects to people that are on the spectrum that are able to do calculations rapidly, or she's able to play the piano or something. But nothing. It's just
And here's what they did with her. They say, I have special needs, allergies and stuff. Then they make her socially awkward.
Yeah, I'm gonna call you Mickey. Can I call you Mickey?
I'm fine. I'm fine with some socially awkward stuff. But then they go so far as to say, I was fast tracked through the academy, which means, is she like 17? maybe that's why she's socially awkward. Like we don't understand what the special needs.
we don't
Are the
understand
special
really
needs
what
that
it
she
is.
just
Yeah.
is
It's just
allergic?
she's socially awkward.
Like,
yeah,
because she could be just socially awkward because she's 17 years old and shouldn't be on a starship yet, like Chekhov was. Chekhov in the new Star Trek movies, super socially awkward.
Yeah.
But he's like 12 years old.
Yeah.
Like, give the kid a break.
yeah. And I
Oh
was
God,
like,
is this our
okay.
Wesley?
And then on top of that, but then here's the thing where they really messed up for me, right? So they go on the away mission, and all of a sudden, like, she's calm, cool, collected. She got phasers. She's just ready to go. And I was like, wait a minute, hold on. 2 minutes ago, you were just, panic, nauseous, and beside yourself.
Maybe,
Now all of a sudden,
that's her special thing. Like she gets in those tight,
in the
crazy,
and she can zone in.
situations,
I
she's
guess.
zoned.
I
Like,
mean,
that's
I
it.
hope so. I hope so.
My biggest thing with like her just coming in and being like, I have special needs, is that I feel like what they did with it is what is done with it a lot in the media. And by it I mean special needs, what have you, is that they turn it into a joke.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
That was
Instead
and that
of
was
just,
another
like-
thing, and it
and
was like, oh, I can see the
instead
setup
of
for future.
addressing
Yeah,
it properly.
yeah. Instead of just like, this is an aspect of who she is, it doesn't make her like a lesser person, whatever her special needs. They turned it into a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Whereas
feel
they
like-
could have made it clear that she was different, but not have addressed it in such a weird
Yeah.
Yeah.
trumpeting way. Like there was no reason to trumpet this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we'll move on. Is that okay, or do you have more thoughts?
I have nothing.
Okay.
I'm just
Because we're running close to an hour already.
right.
Okay.
We get a black alert, which we don't quite know what that means yet, but it
it
has
means
to.
there's water in the air.
What?
That's what the black. Don't you remember them saying that?
Yeah,
the black alert because the whatever the
well,
hydroponics
yeah,
bay, whatever
initially-
the heck that is.
initially when it
something
happened, they did- yeah,
in the
initially-
ship, and they did the black alert.
Yeah,
Okay.
initially when it happened, they didn't explain it, and then when
Right.
the captain,
All right.
whatever, Captain Orca,
Lorca.
The-
There's a La
Captain,
Orca.
the Captain Whale, okay,
La Orca,
whatever,
which is Italian for the orca.
Oh, this is gonna turn into Moby Dick.
boom.
It's
You're right.
already the
It's
Moby
there.
Dick.
Yeah,
He's
it's
already
there.
crazy. Look at him. He's
No.
already lost an eye.
Come
His
Ishmael.
eyesight.
Yep.
He's after something.
Mhm.
We've already done the Moby Dick
Oh.
in First Contact.
Yep.
We don't need to do it again.
But they going for it, and then we got a little twist of Alice in Wonderland thrown in there. I was
Right.
like, all right.
Jeez, OP.
I was like, oh Lord, but yeah, they explained that, and I was like, okay, because I was like, if we have to wait 3 more episodes to find out what a black alert is, like I'm off this. So when he was like, listen,
This is
and then,
what's going on.
but then it was like very Sherlock Holmes, like also it was almost like a sci-fi episode of like Murder She Wrote. Like she goes into the chamber,
Right.
he puts the little spores things in there, and then like she starts to like rattle off like, oh, so that was the black alert because the moisture, da-da-da. And it was
Yeah.
like, girl.
So,
Clicked.
we meet a lot of the same crew from the
The Shinzu.
Shinzu. I was going to say that, but it didn't sound right in my head all of a sudden. From the Shinzu, they're on the ship. I do like that they all have been scarred in some way. There's a clear effect from the Shinzu on these people. The one lady had cybernetics in her head, which I think is kind of cool. Saru is clearly not happy. He turns into a savage and straight out calls out Burnham.
While
and
eating blueberries.
he's like, would you like some blueberries? You're dangerous.
Yeah.
I can't trust you, and I'm not going to let happen to my captain what you let happen to yours. I was like, oh, dang. Okay.
It's got a chip.
Right? I was like, oh, snap.
Everybody in this show, though, is bitchy. Like the lieutenant, the engineering guy.
Yeah.
Stigmats.
Uh,
Dynamits.
Yeah.
Stamets?
It's like
Something.
really, it's Stamets. I kept
Stamets?
thinking
Something.
that it sounded like Stamen, and that
Oh, that's
that
right.
had to be intentional.
I don't. Everybody's a jerk. I don't understand why everybody's being a jerk.
I just need for some folks on Discovery to get laid. Oh, yeah. Because, like, I think that's the problem.
It's
Wow.
like, you guys need to like hook up.
Burnham
yeah.
does beat the crap out of 2 people in 10 Forward.
That was hot.
That was
was
really
hot.
cool.
Well, you knew it was coming. Like
Yeah.
seriously,
Yeah.
he was gonna call her out.
So they find out that Glenn has had some sort of catastrophic failure and everyone's dead. So they're going to go on an away mission. Not take the ship there. They're just going to send a shuttle. This is the worst plan ever. However, they get there, and Commander Landry is there with two security officers, one of which has a Polish name and goes with them. The only not important character to go with them, not in a red shirt, but he's also Polish, so he's dead. We knew it. I knew it. Shirley was a little offended, and then he died. And Shirley's
Whatever.
like, well, I guess that's what happened.
Fine.
And then it turned into an alien horror movie.
It did. It was aliens. It was like, oh, someone got inspired.
And when did
Like, what is with the Klingons going?
yeah did and you know, in all fairness, they
Like-
he shushed him, and I'm like, did he just? And then on screen they're like, did he just shush you? And then he gets eaten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't understand what's going on with this this evil space cat thing.
But I do think the evil space cat thing is why they sent the shuttle, because the captain knew that it was on there.
Oh, okay. I guess that makes
so
sense.
he was like, no.
Yeah, and
we
then
can't."
later, like, you know,
I thought,
has it beamed aboard?
high key, for like a second, I thought that they were going to like reveal an affair between the captain and the head security officer, because like he said something about like,
Oh no,
I want some time alone with it tonight. And I was like, oh my.
Whoa.
I don't like
Okay.
the innuendos and the tension. Like Erica and I were noticing, like some of the moments between Michelle and the captain of the Shenzhou.
Yeah.
Michelle, it was like, oh, like, are y'all about to just like,
Yeah.
like, is it happening?
Yeah.
Is it going down? I was like, good
Deeper.
Lord, like, is your relationship a little bit more closer than what we're leading on? We gonna see that
I'm
in a
here for
flashback.
it. That would be
Right.
a beautiful couple.
So
Right.
then we find out that Burnham knows Alice in Wonderland, and she's running away from this cat because she saved the rest of the crew, or the rest of the away team.
Yeah.
Except for the poor Polish guy that got eaten.
Yeah.
But she's quoting Alice in Wonderland, which is weird, going through the Jeffries tubes. I was very excited about the Jeffries tubes. There may have been a little cheer on my end because Jeffries tubes. I don't like the Alice in Wonderland thing, but they're trying to work it into context, and there's a couple of reasons I don't like it, and we'll get to it in a second. Why are they researching all this stuff on ships instead of stations, which is standard Starfleet? Again, canon issue. Like, we have all of these research stations that people are usually on, and now we're doing it on starships.
Because this is
but why?
secret. He says it. He's like, this is stuff that nobody else knows about.
But they do that at stations too. That's part of that's the
Stations
plot
are
for like
where
3 different
ships come
episodes.
into, like
Yeah.
all different
Well,
kind
but
of ships.
but
all
what
the
I'm saying is
time.
like science research stations where they have military stuff going on. They have like okay, that's Enterprise. That's not fair because they go to cold storage 51 or whatever
Yeah,
to get all
but-
the
Area 51.
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, but like there are several where like they go to a science station to go find out about this special thing, and then that's anyway. It just seemed
Yeah,
off.
I remember on Next Gen they did that because I remember a particular one where it was a scientist and his wife, and they were the only people on the planet. And I remember
Right.
Picard and like Riker showed up, and he's like, "Why the hell are you here? How about I like
Right.
Starfleet can wait?" And then like Riker ended up in court because he allegedly killed him, and like it was crazy.
and or slept with his wife. Both.
Yes,
Whoa.
As you do.
Well, as Riker do.
because Riker was fast and furious.
Well, he
Oh,
was
yeah.
he was a fox.
If you mount that many chairs, some lady's gonna get in the way, and it's just gonna happen.
Oh,
That's ridiculous.
Talk to Riker. I didn't.
was
do
his
it.
nickname Armchair?
Have you not seen him sit down?
I
Okay.
have.
All right. We're
I
on the same
have.
page there.
I mean, it could be that it's like kind of their mission is a little bit off the books, like a little bit. This is sanctioned, but not sanctioned.
But I don't want to get. But it's already dark. It doesn't need to get darker. Like this show is already dark
If we
enough.
don't hurry up and give Matt a happy bunny somewhere, just
Right?
Somebody.
We
Somewhere.
get
CBS.
another alien that takes over for Saru, who looks just like Nebula from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh yeah.
It's a little worried about
When
that.
was that?
So she comes onto the bridge again, and she says, "Commander, permission to come onto the bridge. The captain asked for me." And then Saru walks her over to the captain's quarter or captain's ready room right before they site-to-site teleport.
Right.
he said, Saru says, somebody, you have the bridge. And she gets up and sits down in the captain's chair.
Oh, I didn't pay attention to that.
Sorry. She looked like Nebula, and I was like, why is Nebula on the ship? Like,
Right.
guys, she's just going to hand the ship over to Thanos. This is all bad.
Oh,
It's a crossover.
right.
Surprise.
So let's talk about Lorca for a minute. Yeah, because all of this is, so Lorca is a bartender. Why does he look like a bartender? Standing behind that thing, why does he look like a bartender?
Oh, right.
He did.
With his tribble, which we all know is a biohazard. We're like,
They
let's
don't
not.
know that
And
yet.
his big bowl of fortune cookies.
Which was
What
weird.
was up with that?
Family business.
Well, I mean, fortune cookies are not exactly a Chinese, invention.
I know, but
Right.
it was just he was just like family business, like, and I was like, fortune cookies, bro, like.
Lorca
I
is a
feel
nut
like-
job.
Yeah, I
He
feel
crazy.
like by mid-season or end of the season,
He's going to
to
sign
be
off.
handing out the fortune cookies, and that's going to be your sentence.
No, I think that by the end of the season,
Right.
we'll talk about predictions for the end of the season at the end of this episode because I got some. He says that he recruited Burnham because she lives by her principles, except she violated her own principles. So that doesn't work for me.
No, he says it when they're having that talk, and she's in that little chamber thing. He says, "What was the name of the episode?" King's
Context is king. Is for kings.
Context is king. He said, you're this type of person. I know you exactly, and you're loyal. You're all these things, but she was willing to get rid of everything that Starfleet taught her to save people. And that's what he was talking about.
Okay. All right. I don't, the way he said it was like you live by your principles, but she doesn't live by principles because
She
she
did. The lives of the people were more important than a
but
rule.
in his office, she said, I'm a first officer. I'll always be a first officer, even if I don't get that rank again. Like,
but
that's her principle, but she
right.
violated the first officer principles to.
And that's what he was trying to
Yeah,
tell
I know.
her.
He's still a nut job. Long before the cat got teleported onto the ship, he's got something going on. He is bitter. Like
that
I get
lab with
Right?
like skeletons and shit. I was like, what is
And then-
this?
and
I think he's a
Island
Dr.
of Dr.
Frankens.
Moreau
Right.
type of tea.
Okay, let's
go
there.
Yeah, I was
That's
like,
even worse.
oh.
well, and then
I
we
mean,
get them. Go ahead.
Well, I have a little bit of a theory about why he has a tribble.
Oh, she's
Okay.
got a theory.
Because they breed so much, and he obviously likes his creatures.
I have a further theory now that I'm thinking about it.
Ooh, endless source of food for these creatures.
Well, tribbles.
Planning ahead.
Tribbles are natural enemies of Klingons and can detect them. As we learned in Trouble with Tribbles, we also learned from Worf in Time with Tribbles
Oh,
that the Klingon Empire went to war with Tribbles and destroyed them and eradicated them. No joke. They went to war against fuzzy little balls and won. Which is saying something. No, this is canon.
I know that, but I always still have to tune my lips up because, like, you got this big warrior class that's like,
Well, they didn't.
Little
No,
balls
it
of
was.
fur.
It was because
Right.
they were landing on planets and then eating all the crops and causing starvation, and that's why the Klingons went to war. Which is, I just like I can just
first
stand,
of all, how do they pilot a starship?
they don't. Harry
Do they
Mudd
just
brings them.
they're like rats? They jump on
Yeah.
board.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a lot of
Oh.
rat allegories in Tribbles.
Yeah.
Why the hell did they site-to-site transport from his ready room down? That's just lazy.
No, he didn't want anybody to know he was taking her there.
Okay, I'll give you that one. It just was. It
Hello?
seemed really
Secrecy.
dumb. But Lorca is nut jobby, and this technology they're talking about is way beyond even stuff in Voyager, which is 125 years from now. Like, where the hell is this coming from?
I was like, is it a hallucinogen basically? 'Cause I was like,
Oh.
listen, like all of a sudden,
Intelligent.
now she's in all these places, and I was like, is she really flying? And you never left, and I'm like, what? Listen, bruh. Just do it.
LSD was back in the 60s.
I was like, my God. I was like,
This is
so
not
she's on an
something
LSD
new.
trip. And I was like, well, like, I don't understand. I was like, ugh. like that whole, I don't know. There was aspects of that whole scene. I just was like, you can miss me with the bullshit. Like, because I was like, dude, you can just miss me with it.
So the last problem I have before we discuss my vision of how Discovery is going to go. So she says, my mom read Alice in Wonderland to me and my adopted brother. Mm-hmm. But Spock never references anything about Alice in Wonderland. They meet the freaking rabbit, and he never references Alice in Wonderland.
Hold on. First of all, like, let's go back because I may be misremembering things. Did she say her mom?
Her
Or
mom
isn't
being
she
Amanda.
Adopted?
Amanda, her mom. When she was with Sarek and his wife, Amanda, Spock's mom, would read this book to her and her adopted brother. Or her brother...
Stepbrother.
Whatever. No,
Yeah.
adopt. Whatever. I don't know what that relationship is called, but yeah. But
Okay.
so
That
it's clear that
situation,
that Amanda is reading it to her and someone else who is either Spock or his half brother, who whatever. I don't know, that may be the case, and that may be why he goes and sees God. That movie, so bad.
There are no words.
That's Star Trek V,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
where Uhura does a fan dance and Spock neck pinches a horse.
Yeah, I know. And you keep talking about it.
This is the only thing.
thing
They're going to
is-
put that on your grave. Here
They
lies
are.
Matt over red has a Spock necklace.
All right, so here's what I think was going to happen for this at the end of this first season.
Okay. All right. Lay it on
Lorca's
us.
going to lose it,
Right.
and she's going to take over the ship and become captain and be promoted.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, Stevie Wonder can see that, and he's blind as all get out.
Why are we getting brand new vision of Star Trek from an officer instead of the captain that we're just going to take away? Like, why are we going to do that?
Or it could be that, maybe he'll be 86, and then what's his face will become the captain.
Saru?
Yeah, Saru will become the
Saru
captain.
isn't captain material.
And, I mean,
He's got those neck
He's
tendons.
gonna-
neither was
something's
Troy, but
gonna-
occasionally she
yeah.
sat in the chair and drove. I'm just saying, low key.
There's a thing happening with him. The antennae or whatever hairs.
Neck tentacles.
Yeah, whatever. Like, there's something going on with him, and I feel like it's
He-
part of the.
He can sense the predator on the
scientific-
ship.
Yeah. He
Yeah.
can sense death.
I mean,
because
he makes it very clear in that first episode.
Mhm.
He can sense death. His whole
His whole
species
race,
has been
yeah.
bred
to
to
do that.
do that.
Okay.
And now there's death on the ship, and now he can sense it, and he doesn't know why.
yeah.
Right.
Which I think is a cool, like, of all the things about this.
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. I'm very happy with that.
But the thing is, you know what he's gonna think now?
It's
Oh,
Burnham.
It's Burnham because she stayed.
But that allows us to have that conflict if written well and handled well, and it won't be. So well.
Oh, wow.
Ow.
I have no expectation that anything good is
Sometimes
going
you
to come
just
out of
have to,
Discovery,
like,
and
jump
I do
in.
that because when it happens, that it's better than bad. It's great. I'm
Yeah.
going to be so excited when we get a mediocre episode.
I'm just still upset that, again, one of my pet peeves that I go across all the boards is how Star Trek addresses telepathy, and I'm mad about that whole Sarek whole mind meld situation. Just like I'm still mad about Kes, I'm still mad about Troy. Even though I love me some Troy, I was like, you are the most useless empath in my life. And then they gave me
half Betazoid.
But Betazoids are telepathic. She's half, so she gets empathy, except for when it doesn't work 90% of the time.
Oh,
right.
Well, I don't-
And also, and let's point out that her telepathy works just fine. It's the empathic part that is like, because with Betazoids, like their whole setup and gig is telepathy, and it's always been just reading like other material outside of that, and the way they always positioned her was that basically like her empathy was more was a little bit more skewed because of the fact that she was human. So like that was like her telepathy was supposed to be this thing that was like, oh, it's like it's there, but it's not as gray. She's more of an empath, and so she can do like basic telepathy. But nah, she could reach out and really touch you, go in your mind's eye, but she couldn't sense what was going on with you, how you was feeling that day.
The
best empathy she had was when she lost her powers.
The best Betazoid stories are actually in Deep Space Nine with Odo.
Yeah.
Like by far.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
That's when Majel Barrett gets her. She is on
Yeah.
the whole time and is fantastic.
Yeah.
Anyway, any other thoughts on episode 3? Context is king or is for kings? I'm not sure which one.
Context is king.
Yeah, context.
Sure, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure it is.
Matt always
We're gonna
tries
go
to
with
make
it.
you.
No,
do
I'm
it
just double
yourself.
checking because I gotta name this episode.
I mean, yeah. But at the end of the day, I mean, context is king, and so far the context is that this show is about to be experiment in terror. But I think Saru was cool. I think it was cool to see his antennas, and like I hope they continue to handle him as judiciously as they have. He's developing out to be like a really well-rounded, fleshed out character. I wish they had taken their time with this new captain to build up his creepiness,
Right.
and not instantly just jump into like, oh look,
Right in your
he's
face.
the mad scientist, muhaha, and I'm like,
Okay, but also like I feel like maybe I have too much hope. Maybe I'm
you're
naive.
the hope that Matt has been looking for in the show.
I am the hope. But I feel like there are so many places you can go with that. Like he could turn out to not be as creepy, or it could ramp up to like so far beyond what we expect. Like I feel like even like starting that high, like I'm kind of okay with it because I feel like it could go in a place that we don't expect. Like I feel like there's a lot of potential here, and I feel like what I keep getting is like, this is not a bad idea for a show. This is not a bad setup for a show. You have the elements there. Like you have good actors. You have, like interesting characters. And there's a little bit of me that like has hope that this is going to go somewhere.
By episode 5, we're going to get some shit together.
By
Is
the
this
end of
where
the
we're at?
season, we'll be like, oh.
Be like, I'm ready for
okay.
season 2. My
Like,
body's
okay.
ready.
And
Or
then
it'll be
they'll
like,
ruin it.
well, so that was the season.
Well, and we're all assuming that it's going to make it to season 2. I don't know that it's going to. I'm not trying to be.
No.
that's
I
fair.
totally definitely think that it's set up in such a way.
Context is for kings.
Okay.
I do it.
No one cares. Like, what the
Matt
really?
cares.
Like,
Matt cares.
really? You got,
Go ahead. Go ahead with what you're saying.
I'm gonna beat you. But no, I totally can see where like you're absolutely right. Like the way it's set up and everything right now, like it could easily not make it to a season 2. And I think it's unfortunate because all of the elements are there and you can see that the elements are there, but they're just not being executed properly. And I really, really think that said channel is more focused on trying to get people to subscribe to their subscription and have structured the show around that as opposed to like just structuring a really good show that they happen to put behind a paywall.
Yeah, and yeah.
I think that'll kill it.
I also think that like this is something I noticed because I've been concerned about the uniforms. Like I don't have a problem with the way they look, but it being so close to the original series is like, how are they going to make that leap? But like Burnham's like jumpsuit is the same color as the like commanding uniforms, and I wonder if it's just like a little bone that they're throwing to us, or if that's gonna like come into play and like mean something.
Yeah.
It's like not a huge like plot like element, but it's just something that like I'm kind of.
I
Like,
think you're giving
interested in.
them way too much.
Probably. As I said, I feel like I have too much hope in my soul. Like I'm too naive. I'm
Hope,
like a
the
little
final
baby.
frontier.
I'm like a little fawn.
Yeah. Then that's all right.
These are the
So
voyagers of some fans.
next
Right.
week is episode 4. We don't have a title for that yet because they've yet to release that. That's fantastic. I think that instead of Erica, we're going to swap out for Carl Doniger, Mr. Doniger. So that'll be interesting.
The big Carl D.
Yeah, we'll get to hear about his thoughts on Star Trek Discovery. Yeah, I don't know. Any other last thoughts before we get out of here? It could have been better.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's all your fault.
I'm so sorry. Like, I don't think I will live this one down, and Lord knows I've made some bad decisions
yeah.
in my nerd and geekdom career. And this one will be the one that solidifies.
Yeah. Well,
So sorry.
I think that'll do us tonight for There Are Four Lights, and we will talk to you guys real soon. No, we won't. Now we'll talk to you real soon. And that will do it tonight for us on There Are Four Lights. Remember, you can email us at nerdsdomain@gmail.com or find us on Facebook and Twitter at facebook.com/nerdsdomain and twitter.com/nerdsdomain. And don't forget that we have a site, nerdsdom.com. Be sure to sign up for the newsletter while you're there. You can head over to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating. We want to thank 5 Year Mission for our awesome music. You can find them over at 5yearmission.net. Don't forget, you can support us at patreon.com/nerdsdomain and check out our t-shirts at tpublic.com/user/nerdsdomain. Have a great night.